Good morning, Kanyisila. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
I'm also well. Thank you for asking. So, how's your morning so far?
A bit busy, a bit
Mm-hmm.
busy.
Have you
But
had your coffee?
I've had my coffee. I can't function without it.
Me too. I refuse to take any meeting before, a cup of coffee. So I'm happy that you're good and that you're busy. So thank you so much for your time again, for extending, your morning. We know you're very, very busy. So I'm just gonna go straight into it.
Where I've come from, and where I hope
Yeah.
to go, and who I want to take it on with on this journey. Because I've grown up in rural KZN, and we didn't have many psychologists in the area. We actually had one at school, so it's always been one of my areas of interest to sort of
Wow.
take it back home, take it back into the community,
Yeah.
and help wherever I can. Yeah.
So on that note of you having grown up in, KZN and there being only one psychologist in the community, in fact, she wasn't based in the community, she was based at school, you know, would you say that it's perhaps due to the attitude that perhaps Black people have towards, mental health and representing our communities as experts of mental health? Do you think the fact that there was only one psychologist available is just, a testament to that? Does it show, a Black person's approach or a Black person's belief system in professions and all that there aren't enough psychologists? Or is it just a coincidence? So why do you think there was only one psychologist that was available for the community growing up?
I think it's layered. There are many reasons for this, and one of them
Mm,
being that there aren't opportunities for psychologists in such areas because firstly the government doesn't offer like the opportunities there, so there are no job opportunities for psychologists. Maybe they were there, but they gravitated to the more affluent areas of KZN because there were more
mm.
job opportunities there, you know. And
Yeah.
also
So which part of KZN? Is it a rural area that you come from?
in Kulu. It's on the border of
Mm,
Cape and KZN. So yeah, and also I think another thing that may have contributed to that is that psychologists obviously look for the need. So it goes back to
mm,
the lack of information around the practice
mm,
of psychology. So maybe lots of community members do not have enough knowledge, which is why
mm.
Ribasadi, we want to take it beyond the room and educate people
Sure.
um,
Definitely.
health so that they go seeking the help, you know, that is
Definitely.
sometimes available.
And just on that note, with last week we had, your MD, Miss Buledi. She was with us, and we were talking about the history of Black mental health and how it was understood in the pre-colonial times of Africa, and how the introduction of, psychology as a Western practice has evolved to where we are now. And that's what we're going to touch on, where we are now. But what was interesting that you highlighted is that she has found that there's a shift in terms of now the modern day practices, in that they are bringing back what we as Africans used to do, the whole, holistic approach that we used to approach mental illness versus the segmented, systematic, and like a secret, or secretive approach to mental health that Western practices sort of promote. And she also spoke about, very interestingly, how she spoke about rhythm and movement, that we as Africans are a people of rhythm and movement, and how she's seen that with modern day practices, that they are incorporating movement and all that in healing practices, of which, I mean, it's something that we're born with as Africans. So now, on that point of accessibility to information, I think it's kind of strange that this information that's not made available to us as Black people is about us as Black people. How strange is that?
Very strange. Very, very
It's
strange.
it's so strange, and that's why I think, you know, platforms like these, and even, you know, Ribasari Mental Health Associates, and what you guys stand for is so incredibly important, because I think it's up to us to create the door, you know, clearly, because now we are not welcome as Africans to certain doors that are about Africans. Imagine. So I think it's up to us to change that, and recreate a dialogue, a transformative, inclusive dialogue that, you know, brings awareness to the truth about mental health issues, because I think they're quite important. So on that note, thank you again for your time, and I think we're gonna go straight into our topic for today, being, you know, Black mental health. Where are we now? So we just wanna look at, you know, mental health and mental illness, and how it affects, you know, Africans, in terms of our ancestry, in terms of the effects of capitalism, and socioeconomic oppression, and marginalization, and, you know, medical racism and Black trauma, which we've learned is your area of specialization. So I'm just going to hand it over to you, and then we can go straight into it. So Miss Kanyi Sile, Black mental health, where are we now?
Okay, where are we now? Just going back a bit to what you were talking about before I move on to the topic. You are absolutely right. We really need to create the dialogues, take back our voice, and speak for ourselves, and create platforms like this where we as Black people are owning, you know, our voices, and we are speaking to areas that affect us, and not having other people speak for us, you know.
I like that. Take back our voice. So we're not speaking up, we're taking back what was ours. Yes, girl, definitely.
Taking it back, like, you know. But where
Important.
are we?
Where are we?
So when I was just reading this topic, I was thinking, you know, it's so amazing how even within the training of psychology, there are elements of understanding all of these areas, but it's not very highlighted, you know. A lot of information about Western theories and Western ways of understanding the psyche and so on and so forth, but there's very limited information available on areas such as racism, such as Black trauma.
Capitalism, yes, Black trauma.
We touch on it definitely, but it's not as much as it should be given attention to, you know.
Sure.
It's funny
sure.
enough.
And I think you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, being oppressed and actually Black trauma as a whole, like Black trauma, I think Black trauma really has affected us as Africans, you know, in how we think, and that has translated in how we view ourselves, how we view the world, and how we view others, and subsequently it has affected how we move. You know, we don't carry ourselves as highly as we should, in the capacity of being founders of this whole entire world. You know, most of the world was founded on the backs of Black people, and I think that Black trauma has really had a very, very adverse effect, you know, on Black people. And I agree that it's not highlighted enough. Instead, they focus on these categories of illnesses. Like I said, I was talking to my neighbor the other time, and I was telling Buledi last week, with the young, there are too many things, so many illnesses, so many categories and causes, and this and that, and English and what, and it's like, yo, what's the problem?
Because there's so much out there, but it's sort of not focusing on what should be focused on, you know. And we need to start going and tapping into those areas that we feel are important.
So on that note now of Black trauma, I just want to tell you about a video that I watched, and I spoke about it 2 weeks back on the show, about how I was looking at my business partner's status updates on WhatsApp, and it was in the context of gender-based violence. And So now the landscape was, journalists going out to areas and interviewing like a rapist or gangs. And it's two videos. So the first one, a journalist or an interviewer is interviewing a guy, a gangster, and this interview is taking place in this guy's house. So this guy talks about how, you know what, he rapes because when he sees someone and this person, this lady has a figure that he likes, he feels like it's his right to take what he wants to take, and no one is going to stop him. And they inform him that, listen, when you rape, you're spreading HIV. Now, the most recent victim that you raped has HIV. How do you feel? And then he goes on to say that he feels very proud. He feels like he's a man. And, so that's the first video. The second video is a journalist going out and he's talking to a few members of a gang, and this gang is notoriously known for robbing women or robbing couples specifically. And they talk about, they just want the wallet and the phone. They go for a wallet and a phone, and they rape just because, for fun. And they talk about how sometimes they will force the partner of the lady to watch on, and if he doesn't participate, they go on and just stab him. So in other words, they just rape. It's like they cherry on top in terms of what they do, but what they after is just a mere phone and wallet. And I just began to think about what pushes a person to reason like that. Are they mentally ill? Is it trauma? Black trauma? Because these are African brothers. These are African sisters that are being impacted, that are being affected, and we are sharing space with these people acting like animals. They're not in jail. They're free, walking. You understand? So what pushes a person to rationalize like that, to think like that, to act like that? Can you maybe share your insights or what you think about what's happening, and especially in the context of gender-based violence and trauma and black trauma specifically?
It's so unfortunate, the issue of gender-based violence in South Africa, actually in the whole world, actually not just South Africa. It's so appalling, and it's always just you listen to the stories and you're like, how is this possible, and how can someone think that they're entitled to someone's body like that? But you are right, there are layers to it, and obviously we're not justifying anyone's actions by trying to the reasons behind their actions, but it goes as far as thinking back to our political history. Lots of fathers had to leave their homes for migrant labor reasons, and children were raised without the figures. And the father is supposed to teach the men how to be men, how to be gentlemen, how to treat women, and all of those things. So if the father figure is not there, obviously that will have detrimental effects on the growth of this boy child and even the girl child. And also apartheid to a certain level taught South Africans, that they can only be understood if they're aggressive, I think. So what is violence? That's why even when people protest, they don't protest peacefully, because they understand that violence is the only way they can be heard. So that particular guy who is doing all of these gruesome acts, obviously it may go deeper than what I'm speaking to, but deep down, maybe there is something that needs to be addressed. There is some trauma that he has experienced that is going so undiagnosed and unspoken about, and he's just letting it out to the world. How can we of treating someone like that? That does not sound right.
Yeah, but also, it's you see, when videos like that emerge, it's I think we can look at those situations as the glass half empty, half full in the sense that if videos like that don't circulate, if these rapists don't talk, we will not have an idea of the mental issues or the trauma actually that really exists within, African communities, right? At the same time, it's like, when you hear the extent of this illness, this mental illness that these people have, and how they hurt other people, that will in turn create more illness and more sickness. And again, Buledi was touching on last week how, the pre-colonial way of or approach to mental illness and treatment was a holistic one. And when you are hurt a certain way, I believe it doesn't just affect your mental, it really affects your spirit, and that's what she was emphasizing, the spirit. So how does a nation begin to try heal from such? What are the active steps in trying to diagnose this type of trauma that now we are faced with today? This is what's happening today.
I think the first step is we have to acknowledge all of these layers to this issue. It means that the government and all the people of South Africa, all the world, have to understand that person got to that point because of a lot of socio-economic or socio-political factors, the home environment, the community environment, because they don't just wake up and become that person. It's all of those factors contributing daily and molding them into a certain kind of person, So to answer your question, how do we heal? We need to do more work. We need to do more groundwork in the communities. We need to go back to the communities and facilitate the healing from that level. It's nice to be in offices. It's nice to be behind the room, behind the doors in our offices, in our cute, well-furnished offices. But the person who's doing all of these things does not have access to that. The person who's doing all of these acts or the victim even, or the person that survived these acts, usually doesn't have the access to the office park where you have your office as a psychologist. We also need to tap into the other structures like social welfare. Government needs to prioritize those areas. Social workers are definitely exploited. They need to be paid. They need to be opportunities for the work to be done, because we talk about the healing and it's great, but really a government hospital has one psychologist who has a waiting list of 1 month or even 3 months.
Goodness.
So we theorize this healing, but practically it's not happening.
I definitely hear you, and I definitely agree with you, because not enough is being done about mental health issues and just wellness overall. I think that to an extent, I remember I'm speaking to one of your colleagues, Pikuto, and she was talking about how right now this life, it's something called like a rat race. We are moving, we are going. It's about productivity, it's about output, it's about moving, going, numbers, figures. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think we understand the effect that may have on your brain. We can look at it psychologically, we can look at it medically, we can look at it in different ways. Well, the effect of this rat race, that how it adversely affects your brain, your mind, your soul, how you operate, your perspectives, and all that. And it doesn't assist that the government, that's one of the biggest gatekeepers, are not on our side, and it leaves us in a bit of a corner, because now what's the way forward when the person that's a gatekeeper is not understanding the issues that perhaps you, in the capacity of being a psychologist on the ground, when someone that is a gatekeeper is not able to understand, the core things that are happening, it's frustrating, because now, what is the way forward? you know Perhaps I should ask, are there things that a person can do in the absence of, a psychologist, in the absence of, professional help, to perhaps try and counsel themselves? Is that practical for a person to self-help, themselves, especially in the landscape of the socio economic oppression that we face, the marginalization, the medical racism, the black trauma, which are unavoidable. It's a reality all over the world. Even with the Black Lives movement that's happening right now, it's just a testament of all these issues that are existing. But now, in terms of moving forward, in terms of a solution to diagnose this, is it practical to self-help? What would you say?
I think self-helping, it is possible, and it
Mm,
have its merit, but it is important to also seek professional help. And the beauty of
yeah.
us as Africans is that we have our own resources within our communities. We
Mm,
have our chiefs, our leaders, who are sometimes there for us and act as those
yeah.
psychologists and those those counselors. We have
Yeah.
you listen to people and they'll talk about the school principal, the school teacher, who's there for them, playing that role without the title of being counselor, psychologist, social worker. We have priests,
Mm,
we have our religious leaders. So I think it's also important that while we are in this wait or in this journey of trying to reach the communities as psychologists, that the community members also make use of their own resources. They
sure.
yeah, as many have been already doing.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm. But now, in terms of, capitalism, ooh, that's a big one. In terms of capitalism and, Black lives, and the oppression that we face, um, would you think, or do you think, that's ever gonna end? Or would you say that there are methods and approaches of diagnosing some of these mental issues as a result of oppression, that can help us in the long run? Because my thing is, we are still facing oppression
Mhm.
as Africans. We are still facing, capitalism, and Africans as in, Black Americans as well,
Yeah.
because they are African Americans. I think it was Wizkid's mom, when she was accepting an award for him, and she was saying that no matter who you are, no matter where you are in the world, if you are Black, you were once an African. You understand? And now I was watching this other movie. It's The Hate You Give, Thug. The Hate You Give. It's a well-known movie, and a Black father in the movie was talking about how, in terms of the American system, when it comes to, the Black people, they target Black men, they keep them in jail, and it's like they are figures, and then they keep them in jail for a certain amount of time, and then it's like they're on a belt, a production line, and it's like a system, and it circulates, and all these issues are systematic issues that have been put in place by the people that oppress us, right? So now, in the landscape of Black mental health and wellness, and especially in the context of the reality, that we face, that the people that are gatekeepers and doorkeepers, are capitalists, you know you know what about that? Where are we now regarding, that, and especially how it used to be and how it is now in the 21st, century? What would you have to say about that?
Okay, I think there is a growing move towards changing some of that, but it is quite slow, you know,
Mm,
because the gatekeepers will always change the goalposts. Even as a psychologist yourself, you find yourself oppressed by certain structures. You want to start a practice, but because you don't have the capital or the financial capacity, you are stuck. You have to settle for a job that limits your growth. You want to as a psychologist, you want to generate some knowledge, and you want to train, you want to impart some of the knowledge that you've come across, but there are structures such as accreditation processes that limit how far you can go with that, because they will always gatekeep. These structures are put there deliberately so that we stunt our growth, we never reach our potential, So I think the main thing that we need to do is try and keep pushing. There's a Zulu term, that says ungaphela amandla, don't hope. And I think even within the communities, we need to keep trying, and eventually we'll get there. The gatekeeping will never end, because there's racism everywhere. There's oppression, there's all of these factors that affect us on a daily. And it doesn't matter how far up the ladder you go, you'll always be faced with some of these challenges, And even with the mental health space, just even the receiver and the healer will always face some form, So
of resistance.
Yes, from these structural entities, if I may.
That are in place, yes. But I particularly like how you say that there has been a change, and that's giving hope, because it means that us, like you saying, ungaphela amandla, ne? Don't give up, don't lose hope.
Yeah, no,
if I'm not mistaken,
there has been a lot of change. Think about this, you and I, two black girls having this conversation. Our moms couldn't have.
Yes, girl.
Others couldn't, We are a group of 4 ladies doing such incredible work.
Definitely.
This is not something that was handed to us. We had to push.
Yeah.
Push. And it's all about push, where you keep trying and you keep challenging and pushing back, because
yes,
it will always be like that. If we don't push, we become complacent, then nothing will ever change. And I think these structures force us sometimes to become very comfortable in that 9 to 5 that is prescribed for you. So that's why we need to, as mental health practitioners, we need to move beyond that. Yeah.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for that, Ms. Kanyisile. What I take from, in terms of mental health and where are we now, the most important thing is to understand that some of these, structures that are in place, for an example, capitalism and oppression and marginalization, it's not going anywhere seemingly, and it's just up to us to keep pushing and to focus on the half full glass, in that, look at us now. It's a group of Black female Africans that, can collaborate and be on a platform that is available to 54 other, African countries, and it's an inclusive space. And we can talk about important things like Black mental health and, such positivity, such construction. And it's something that has never existed, or perhaps, our mothers didn't have, these platforms. So I think it's definitely a testament. Our conversation right now is a testament of, the evolution of when we push, what happens. And what we should do is to continue pushing, until we are in the positions that we need to be in to exercise this change and to exercise more healing of, the Black trauma and, the cyclical issues that we're facing as a community as a result of, capitalism. So Thank you so much for your time. It was so insightful. We learned a lot. Hopefully the listeners, will resonate to, what we've spoken about. And, next week we're gonna continue on with part 2 about, where are we now in terms of, mental illness in the Black community and Black mental health. So on that note, thank you so much for your time. Please enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Toliso. Thank you for the work that you're doing, for creating such platforms. It's amazing and it's great work. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Bye.